Welcome to Infinite Heart Stories, where we journey through the driest deserts of life to find the hidden springs of hope. For 3 long and punishing years, the rain had completely forgotten this land, leaving behind nothing but dust and silent despair. Ethan stood, watching his livelihood crumble into dust, the weight of responsibility for his family pressing heavily on his tired shoulders. Inside the farmhouse, his family waited with empty cups, their silent eyes begging for a miracle that the sky refused to give. The financial reality was grim, as the last of their savings had evaporated just like the moisture in the barren soil. With no other options left to save them, Ethan made a bold decision to dig a well with his own bare hands. He struck the unforgiving earth with all his might, marking the beginning of a battle between one man and the dry ground. The neighbors watched with skepticism, whispering that he was chasing a fool's dream and wasting his remaining energy on a hopeless task. They mocked his solitary effort, claiming that water was a myth in these parts and that he would only find his grave. Ethan tuned out their cruel words, letting the rhythm of the shovel against the dirt drown out the noise of their doubt. Days turned into weeks, and weeks slowly dragged into a month, as the pile of excavated dirt grew higher beside the pit. His body ached with a constant throb, every muscle screaming for rest, but the image of his thirsty family kept him moving. His hands were raw and bleeding, the skin torn by friction, yet he refused to let go of the tools of salvation. He was now digging in a deep shadow, the circle of blue sky above becoming smaller as he descended into the earth. 5 weeks had passed, and his strength was fading fast, fueled only by meager rations and an unyielding will to survive. Every inch gained was a battle, with hidden rocks and stubborn roots fighting back against his intrusion into the ground below. At 15 feet deep, the process became slower, requiring him to hoist heavy buckets of useless dirt up to the surface alone. His wife pleaded with him to stop, fearing that the well would become his tomb rather than their source of life. But Ethan shook his head in the darkness, driven by a conviction that he could not explain, but felt in his bones. By the 8th week, the air at the bottom was thick and hot, making every breath a struggle in the confined space. He had reached 22 feet, a depth that seemed impossible for one man, yet the ground remained as dry as bone. Suddenly, his shovel struck something different, a layer of strange blue clay that felt as hard and unforgiving as solid iron. He summoned his last reserves of energy, raising the tool high to smash through this unexpected barrier blocking his path. With a sickening crack, the handle snapped in his hands, leaving him holding useless wood while the blue clay remained scratched. He stared at the broken tool in disbelief, the silence of the well amplifying the sound of his own breaking heart. Tears finally escaped, carving paths through the dust on his cheeks as he slumped against the wall in total defeat. A cry of pure frustration echoed up the shaft, a sound of a man who had given everything and received nothing back. From above, he was just a speck in the darkness, a man buried alive by his own ambition and the cruel drought. He climbed out of the pit with heavy limbs, dragging his feet across the dry ground, ready to accept his failure. He sat in the dust, the red sun setting on his dreams, convinced that the blue clay was the end of the road. Just then, an old truck rumbled up the driveway, and a weathered man named Ralph stepped out, eyeing the pile of dirt. Ralph was a legendary well digger in the region, a man who knew the secrets of the earth better than anyone else alive. He looked at the broken handle, then walked to the edge of the pit, peering down into the abyss Ethan had created. Ethan muttered that he was done, explaining that he had hit a layer of impenetrable blue rock that broke his tools. A strange smile spread across Ralph's face as he asked to see a piece of the material that had caused such despair. Ethan handed him a jagged chunk of the blue clay, watching as the old man inspected it with the reverence of a jeweler. Ralph crushed the edges of the clay, showing Ethan that this wasn't just rock, but a dense barrier that held a secret. He explained that this blue clay was the hardest layer of all, but it was essentially the cap on a bottle of water. Ralph told him that the water he sought was likely just 4 inches below where he had stopped and broken his shovel. Ethan looked back at the hole, realizing that he had given up when he was literally inches away from saving his family. The old man handed him a chisel and hammer, advising him to stop using brute force and start using smart, precise technique. With renewed purpose, Ethan took the tools, inhaled deeply, and descended back into the darkness for one final, calculated attempt. Back at the bottom, the silence was heavy. But this time, Ethan didn't feel defeated. He felt like a surgeon ready to operate. He placed the chisel against the blue clay, tapping gently but firmly, looking for the weak points rather than smashing blindly. Chip by chip, the hard layer began to give way, yielding to his patience and technique where his anger had failed. An hour passed, and he had gone 2 inches deeper, his movements steady and controlled, trusting the wisdom of the old man. Suddenly, the sound of the hammer changed, a hollow thud that signaled the barrier was thinning and the prize was near. With one final, precise strike, the chisel punched through the remaining crust, sinking into the soft, yielding void beneath. A hiss of pressure released, followed immediately by a jet of cold, clear water spraying up and washing over his face. He laughed aloud, a sound of pure relief, as the cool water bubbled up around his boots, rising fast and steady. He scrambled up the ladder, racing the rising tide, his heart pounding not from exertion, but from the thrill of victory. He burst onto the surface, drenched and beaming, shouting the news that would change their lives forever. They had found water. His family ran to him, embracing the wet miracle, their tears of sorrow instantly transforming into tears of overwhelming joy and gratitude. Ralph watched the reunion with a satisfied nod, tipping his hat before quietly driving away, his work as a guide complete. The well filled with crystal-clear water, a life-giving source that had been waiting patiently beneath the deceptive blue clay. Ethan didn't hoard his treasure. He shared the water with the very neighbors who had mocked him, silencing them with kindness. The well became the heart of the village, reviving not just Ethan's farm, but the hope of the entire community around him. Life returned to the land, painting the brown earth with strokes of green, a testament to one man's refusal to quit. Ethan kept a piece of the blue clay on his mantle, a reminder that the hardest obstacles often guard the greatest treasures. His story teaches us that success is often hiding just a few inches behind the moment you feel most like giving up. He taught his son that brute force isn't always the answer. Sometimes, you need wisdom and technique to break through the walls. Their home was filled with laughter again, washed clean of the fear that had haunted them during the long, dry years. The farm stood as a green beacon, a living monument to the power of persistence and the importance of seeking guidance. The mockery of the village had turned into reverence, proving that the bold actions of one can change the minds of many. Ethan looked at the sky with a smile, no longer afraid of the sun, knowing he had found his own strength below. When the rain finally came, it was a celebration, not a rescue, adding to the abundance that he had already created. Remember, digging until your hands bleed is noble, but knowing where and how to dig is what truly brings the water. The broken shovel represents the limits of our strength. while the chisel represents the limitless power of knowledge and right strategy. Never be too proud to listen to those who have walked the path before you. Their wisdom can save you years of pain. Ethan found peace not by escaping his struggle, but by digging directly through it to find the solution hidden within. If you are facing a wall of blue clay in your life today, take heart. Your breakthrough is likely just inches away. Keep digging, keep learning, and keep believing. For the water of life is waiting for those who refuse to stop trying. From the dry dust of despair to the overflowing well of joy, Ethan's journey is a mirror of our own human potential. If this story watered the seeds of hope in your heart, please like this video and share it with someone who needs it. Thank you for watching Infinite Heart Stories. Remember, when the ground seems hardest, your breakthrough is waiting just inches away from you.